So I get asked a lot of questions on the internet, interview type things, emails from folks, and I got an email recently from some of the folks at onlinecollege.org, and rather than just type out the answer, I figured I would just shoot a little short video and answer their questions. And it's for a blog post they had on university administrators, sort of what it takes to become one, the career path, etc. And so I'm just going to go through the questions and answer them one by one. The first question was, why did you decide to pursue a career as a university administrator? Did you always know you wanted to be involved in university education? Well, I don't think any of us sort of, when we were little kids, dreamt that we wanted to be a university administrator. I think it's sort of one of the things that you fall into after you've learned about college, after you've been maybe at a university for a while, as an undergrad, maybe for your master's degree, and then you decide that, you know what, this is kind of a fun place to be, a fun place to work at. And in my career, I've worked at the University of Illinois at Chicago as a marketing specialist in student development services. During my graduate work, I was the student affairs web specialist at Oregon State University. I've bounced around doing quite a bit of consulting with a lot of the higher education associations. Worked as an academic advisor and website coordinator for Oregon State at the College of Health and Human Sciences. So I've been around the block a little bit in terms of my administrative roles, and I think the idea of pursuing it as a career, it kind of happens naturally rather than something that you plan on doing strategically, just because the roles are very diverse, and as are the schools that you can work at. So question number 2 is, what type of preparation did you do to get into this field, such as educational experience and work experience? Well, personally, my undergraduate degree from the University of Northern Iowa is in public relations and communications, and I did a minor in marketing. And those skills have aided me in everything that I've done career-wise, from working with websites, communicating with leaders, doing a lot of writing, presenting, event management, customer service, all sorts of marketing initiatives. And I've used those skills in my career as a student affairs practitioner since day one. My master's degree is in college student services administration, which is obviously a student affairs degree, and it's the kind of education that you don't necessarily think that there are degrees in that type of thing when you're an undergrad, or even know that it's a career, but it's an awesome degree to get, and a lot of folks get them all across the country, here in the United States anyway. And I would highly recommend it. It's the kind of career that's extremely rewarding because you get to work with students on a daily basis. What I get to do now is I get to work with folks who work with students on a daily basis. So in essence, I'm helping indirectly, but I'm still helping the students that they serve. The third question is, if your education was directly related to your career, what types of classes and projects did you have to do in school? I would say one of the highlight projects that I did when I was in school was as a intern, public relations intern for the Wellness Center. I believe it was the Wellness and Recreation Center at the University of Northern Iowa. And this was essentially doing PR and marketing for the wellness folks, the health promotion folks. And so this was a division within student affairs. So I was doing student affairs work at the time, but I didn't realize it. And so, my love of student affairs work sort of came from that. And, that was a great project, sort of experience for me for credit. In terms of other classes, especially at the undergraduate level, obviously graphic design, website design, org theory, a lot of my PR writing classes, communication theory. This has all helped me in my career tremendously with what I do. Graduate courses, of course, were all the sort of standard student affairs classes: student development theory, business and administration, multicultural competency, disability awareness, technology stuff, all sorts of classes related to the field, in addition to some philosophy classes, which I added on, classes like feminist philosophy, ethics of diversity, and even took some classes on race and ethnicity through the sociology department while at grad school, so I kind of mixed it up a little bit with a variety of classes. Number 4 is sort of the same. The question is, how did your education help you in your career? I would say it's helped me tremendously. Obviously, the degree helps get you access sometimes, just having that title or that piece of paper, but it's the experience and the network and the connections. I went through a graduate program that had a cohort model, and that cohort model was extremely beneficial, and I'm still in touch with a lot of those folks today, and I call many of them friends. So I would say that that education piece in the classroom was tremendous for me, but it's really about the people that I met that has really made the difference. Next question was, what was your career path like in this field? For example, did you begin in one position and advance through others to reach where you are now? It's sort of the hodgepodge of items. There's a theme of, I would say, health and wellness in my career. Working for the College of Health and Human Sciences, working for the Wellness Center, working for the Wellness and Recreation Center. But again, there's that technology piece that's kind of been through my career, sort of woven throughout. And I would say that I haven't really sort of leapfrogged from one position to another with the idea that I'm going to go from a coordinator position to an assistant director position to an associate director to a director, to a dean position. So for me, it's been about picking and choosing the opportunities that feel right for me, rather than trying to follow a linear course that is more prescribed, I would imagine. Number 6 is, what types of skills is someone required to have to work in your position, and what would you say is the most important skill? I would say the most important skill for those of us that work in student affairs is, well, 2 things: listening and empathy. I think that for what we do, we have to be able to listen to our students, listen to those that we work with, have empathy for the situations that folks are in, because that can help us in many different areas that we're in. Thinking strategically is also something that we all have to do. There's a lot of strategy. It's all about strategy, outcomes, goals, learning, and so that's a big element of it as well. But it sounds simple, but I would say listening and empathy are probably at the top of my list, followed by strategy. And in terms of most important skill, I would say there really isn't one skill that sits near the top. It's a combination. It's really a holistic thing. As people, we're not defined by one particular thing, but we're defined by many things that we do. And what do I do in a typical workday? Well, what I do right now is I write for InsideHigherEd.com. I give presentations and featured talks at conferences, at their association events, and I also do all sorts of other writing for various publications for associations. I work with different schools on social media, marketing, communications. I do a web show on higheredlive.com. The web show is called Student Affairs Live, where I interview student affairs practitioners about topics that student affairs folks are interested in. So I'm involved with a lot of different things. I'm writing a book chapter right now on using social media and strategic enrollment management. A lot of irons in the fire right now. So my typical workday is sort of a lot of different things and managing my calendar and the writing that I have to do, as well as my travel schedule. Do I plan to advance to another position within the field? If so, to what position and why? At this particular point in time, I'm going to be a consultant for a while, as long as things continue as they have been. Were I to go back to an on-campus position, I would imagine that I would look for something along the lines of either Associate Dean of Students or Director of Communications for an entire division of Student Affairs. Something that allows me to use my skill set, which is working with students, working with communications, technology, marketing, social media, a position that allows me to have a decent amount of autonomy, where I can be creative and construct some things that I feel would be really useful for a campus, with a community, with a division. What type of person do I think is best suited for a job in the field? Well, I think perseverance, resiliency, you have to be patient, you have to be courageous, you have to be a little bold, but you have to temper it with humility, because you have to realize that at any time it can be taken away from you. Texas Tech is a great example of amazing student affairs practitioners who were let go because of budget issues, financial issues at the university. So I would say, you really want you really want to have a lot of patience, and at the same time know that you need to work strategically, work really hard, and build your network, because the people that I know professionally have been the ones that have aided me throughout my career and have given me advice, told me when I've messed up, patted me on the back when I needed it, when I was feeling a little low. And so, really build your network. That's a really important characteristic. And last question is, do you have any advice for those who are looking to launch a career in your field? Well, I don't really have a sort of position description right now, so I would say if you're trying to do what I'm doing in terms of consulting, doing the whole road warrior thing, speaking, writing, and working with schools, I would say the number one thing is to again have that network, because people, when they think about X, Y, and Z in terms of an issue on their campus or something that they want to implement or a new initiative, you need them to think about you, because you're the consultant to fill that role. In terms of what I've done in the past, academic advising, enrollment management work, health promotion, student development, get a job, an entry-level job, and try it out. I would say a lot of folks enter into the field through housing. Housing is a great way and housing and res life, because it's a great way to get used to sort of the experience of being on the other side. Many of us lived in the residence halls as students, but if you are a resident director or resident life coordinator at a school, you have the opportunity to be involved in many things, from event planning, student conduct issues, leadership involvement, working with organizations, mentoring, teaching. There's just a lot of different things that are part of that position. So I would say that's a really good way to get into this field. I really want to thank onlinecollege.org for just inviting me to do this little interview. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to look me up online. My name is Eric Stoller. My website is ericstoller.com. You can find me at Eric Stoller on Twitter, and pretty much everywhere else on the internet. If you just Google Eric Stoller, I'll come up on something. So, all right, have a good day, everyone. Take care.